All right, let's talk about Linux. If you've ever dipped your toes in, you know that one of its most powerful features is choice. But let's be honest, that can also be kind of overwhelming, right? Especially when it comes to how your computer actually looks and feels. So today, we're going to demystify the whole visual side of Linux, what we call the desktop environment. Let's dive in. I mean, you look online and you see all these different interfaces, it's enough to give anyone a bit of decision paralysis. But you're not alone in feeling that way. And the good news is, it's actually way simpler than it seems. We're going to break down what these different looks are, how they work, and help you find the one that's perfect for you. Okay, so first things first. When we talk about the look and feel of Linux, what are we actually talking about? Well, we're talking about the desktop environment. Think of the desktop environment, or DE for short, as the complete visual package. It's the personality of your operating system. It's everything you see, everything you click on, drag around, and interact with on your screen. And here's the thing. A DE isn't some single magical piece of code. Not at all. It's really just a collection of different parts that you already know, all working together. You've got your taskbar, the way you switch between windows, your little pop-up notifications, the settings panel, even the style of the borders and buttons on your windows. All of that gets bundled together to create one cohesive experience. And you've probably heard some of these names bouncing around before, right? GNOME, KDE Plasma, and Cinnamon. These are some of the heavy hitters in the Linux world. Each one has its own philosophy. Some are all about simplicity, others are built for endless customization, and they're often the default choice you get with major Linux distributions. Okay, so we know what a desktop environment is, but to really understand the power and flexibility of Linux, we've got to look one level deeper and see how all these pieces can actually be pulled apart. And this right here is a really key distinction. A desktop environment is that full, batteries-included package. It gives you everything you need right out of the box. Wi-Fi management, file explorers, the whole shebang. A window manager, on the other hand, is just one single component from that bigger toolbox. Power users often use only a window manager to build these super lean, highly customized systems from scratch, picking every single utility themselves. And here's a perfect real-world example of why you might do that. On a less powerful device, like a Chromebook, a full DE can be a bit much. So in this case, just installing a lightweight window manager like Sway makes the system super fast and efficient. It's all about choosing the right tool for the job. Now, this brings us to one of the most exciting, most powerful things about Linux. You are never stuck with what you first install. You have total freedom to change things up. I mean, this is a huge difference compared to other operating systems. On Linux, you can decide you're bored with your desktop and just swap it out for a completely different one. You can totally transform your user experience without having to reinstall your whole system. It's an incredible amount of flexibility. But you know what they say, with great power comes, well, a few little headaches. If you install multiple desktop environments on the same system, sometimes they can step on each other's toes. You might get a password prompt that looks like it's from another dimension, or a file picker that doesn't match anything else. It's usually not system breaking, just a little weird, a little jarring, and it does take up some extra disk space. So what's the smart way to play around with all this? It's actually pretty straightforward. First, just do a quick search to see if your Linux distribution has a recommended way to add new desktops. Then, and this is the golden rule, try it out in a virtual machine first. A VM is like a safe little sandbox. You can install whatever you want, break it, fix it, and it won't affect your main computer at all. Once you find one you really love, then you can install it for real. All right, so let's get to the most practical question of all. With all this choice, where should you even start? Let's figure out which desktop might be the best fit for you. This is, hands down, one of the most common questions from people making the switch to Linux. You just want something that feels familiar, something that lets you get up and running without a huge learning curve. And there are some absolutely fantastic options for that. So at first glance, KDE Plasma looks a lot like Windows, right? It's got the taskbar at the bottom, a start menu, but their philosophies are polar opposites. Modern Windows, it seems, is often about limiting your choices, hiding settings, and locking things down. KDE Plasma is the exact opposite. It's built from the ground up to be tweaked and customized. We're not just talking about changing your wallpaper. We're talking about fundamentally changing how you interact with your entire computer. So if you're coming over from Windows, what's the best route? Well, this little chart breaks it down. KDE Plasma gives you that familiar look right away, but with an absolute ocean of customization options waiting for you. Linux Mint, with its Cinnamon desktop, gives you a fantastic functional similarity. It just works like you'd expect, and honestly, it's considered one of the best, if not the best, out-of-the-box experiences for new users. And that leads to a very clear recommendation. If you're a beginner looking for the smoothest, most pain-free transition from Windows, Linux Mint is praised time and time again for getting new users comfortable in the Linux world with almost zero friction. So, finally, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. With all these different projects and ideas, what's the future look like? Are we ever going to get to a point where everything just works together perfectly? And does that even matter? Well, a big part of that future is a technology called Wayland. In simple terms, it's a modern replacement for the really old display system that Linux has been using for decades. A major goal of Wayland is to create a more stable, more secure foundation that all these different desktops can use, which will hopefully solve a lot of those long-standing compatibility quirks. But hey, let's be realistic for a second. This idea of perfect visual consistency, it isn't really a reality on any operating system. I mean, think about Windows. You've still got the new Settings app right next to the old control panel, and tools that look like they haven't been updated since the 90s. A few rough edges are pretty normal everywhere. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. For the vast majority of us, what's most important isn't that every single icon and menu looks exactly the same. What really matters is that the system is stable, that it's reliable, and that it lets us get our work done. So yeah, while that initial wall of choice can't seem like a lot, it's ultimately one of Linux's greatest strengths. It means that somewhere out there is almost certainly a desktop environment that works exactly the way your brain works. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. In a world that's built on freedom and personal choice, maybe the goal isn't to have one single unified design that fits everyone. Maybe the real goal is to empower every single person to find, or even build, the one that's perfect for them.